There's another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, we had a lot of things we had to get in and worked around in the technology area. Thank you, Taylor, for being so nimble on it.
Always.
I don't see myself in the right-hand corner. But
One second.
Okay. Is that important? Okay. Well, I'm not in a big hurry. I know what I look like. But anyway, we're going to talk about immigration today. There you go. We were going to talk with Melissa Miller from Chamber, but the poor girl has flu. So why don't you give her a text or a message or whatnot? Yeah. Wait till you get the flu, buddy. You know,
I had the flu.
Well, yeah, you did about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It ain't fun, is it?
No.
So, but I've been wanting to do a show on immigration for a while, so I think I take advantage of this. And we may get through it today. I don't think we will because we got a lot of clips and some screenshots and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm going to try to do a balanced review about what's going on with immigration. It's a very serious problem. It's a very multifaceted problem. It's a one where the political hypocrisy content is high. It is one that really puts a lot of people at, shall we say, a conflict of emotions. You know, they want to be humane. They want to do the right thing. They want to, treat people well. But you also can't have open borders. You can't have this bum rush to the border that's just causing chaos down in Texas, down South Texas. And so, it is a complex issue. I'm going to try to look at it in a balanced view and look at some of the assumptions about illegal immigration and are they true or not, or some of the statements made by Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, are they true or not? And if we don't get to them, like I said, we'll get to it in part 2 next week. But it took a lot of research to really get a handle on what's going on with this. And I'm going to say from the outset, there's a couple of areas I won't be really discussing much at all. And that is one area I won't be talking about is the Dreamers and the status of the Dreamers, because we're not talking about the same thing really with the Dreamers. If you don't know that term, most people do, but if you don't know the term, it's those people that were brought here as children or infants and the process by which they can remain in the country. And now they don't have a pathway to citizenship yet, but they would be able to avoid any kind of deportation issues unless they violate the law. And they would basically be able to function within the United States. Second one, I'm not going to be talking about another source of illegal immigration that we really don't talk about, and that's people that overstay their visas. We have a lot of people that come here and work in tourist visas or 6-month family visitation visas, and they just don't go back. And the numbers of that are somewhat unknown. And yet we don't really talk much about that. We talk mostly about what's going on down at Eagle Pass or Del Rio or El Paso or San Diego and these other areas. And that's what I'm going to be focused on primarily. Another thing is we always think of it as an Hispanic migration to the United States. And that's, it's true, obviously, to a large degree, but it's an international migration to the United States. The Border Patrol statistics show that they have dealt with people from 180 countries in this situation. Okay? And so what you have is a situation in which you're not just dealing with Mexico, which is a false characterization. What you're having also is it's coming from all over the world. Is that the heater on there, buddy? All right.
I got off.
Okay. Anyway, so but also there's also lots else going on. We're going to have a new sponsor today, and we'll get to that one in a minute. But let's go ahead and go through the sponsors as I try to futilely load this up to the others. Come on, dadgummit. Thank you, Our Place. It's a great place. It's got great food, great service, and Otto is really a community citizen. I'm very proud to have him on as a sponsor because of the type of person he is and the type of business he runs and the fact that he has a very loyal staff that tells me a lot about him. Also, if you're looking to work for Otto, they're going to be hiring over at Gina's Pizza. Now, most people know by now that he's acquired that place and he's working to get it up to snuff. He had to do a lot of remodeling and whatever else. So, if you want to work for this gentleman, which is not a bad way to do business, you might want to give him a holler and work over at Gina's Pizza. Also, thank you to Wild Cigar, Nathan and Chris. Hope they're doing well. They're going to have all the ball games on this weekend, and then the playoffs start after that. So they'll, a good place to go watch the Cowboys or any other playoff game. Have a cigar, have a drink, quiet place, have a little conversation about the game or whatever else. You can actually hear yourself think. It's a really good place. Chris and Nathan are also community sponsors of events and charities, and so we appreciate what they do for our community. So Wild Cigar, thank you for what you do. Also, thank you to Local Life Magazine. They just come out. Their issue is about fitness trainers and fitness gyms and things of that nature, health and wellness. And thank you, Tiffany. It's a great magazine. If you don't get it yourself personally, you can get it online. LocalLifeTX.com has the whole issue online, but you'll find it just about any retail outlet, just about, and also goes to 30,000 homes. So thank you, Tiffany, for what you do. Also, it's time to think about Valentine's Day. You thought you were off the hook with Christmas, guys? No, thank you.
It never stops.
It never stops. Valentine's Day is a good day to propose. You got anybody you want to propose to, Taylor? Anybody? Any chance?
That's for me to know and you to find out.
No, our vast listening audience wants to know.
Nobody wants to know that.
Nobody wants to know. Okay, fine. Well, Southern Gem's got the rings for you guys, and also for your sweethearts and loved ones and whatnot. They got lots going on. I was talking to Robin yesterday, and there was they've been open since they were closed last week. They've been open this week, and they had a lot of people coming in they got some new jewelry and they want it like sized properly and things of that nature. And so they're still pretty busy. So drop them by Southern Gem. Also, here's our new sponsor, another B&I friend, Brenda Ramirez at Two Maids. And we at B&I highly endorse Two Maids. Several of our members use Two Maids. What they are, they do both home and office cleaning. And they have a very, very unique way of doing business. And it really, I'm going to read from the clip or whatnot so I can, give it to them properly. Here it is. Two Maids is a locally owned residential and commercial cleaning company. We service anywhere from Burleson to Godley, Waxahachie, Granbury, and as far south as Hillsboro. We take pride in our quality so much that we use our pay-for-performance concept. Our cleaners get compensated based on the rating our clients give them instead of an hourly rate. We offer one-time cleans such as a deep clean, move in and move outs, recurring cleans, and you can create your own custom packages. To go online get a free quote, twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson, twomaidscleaning.com/Burleson, or call them at 817-764-0733. That's 817-764-0733. I really endorse Brenda as a business person, as a decent and kind woman. She works with a lot of people, and she gets them jobs. And I'm very impressed with her and her whole outfit. And a lot of the people B&I that use her service, like Gayla and Lisa Smith over at Stop Restoration and a few others, they just think that she's wonderful. So give them a consideration if you need your office or your home cleaned on a routine or a one-time basis even. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing. John Williams, 817-734-2756. I saw him yesterday as well. I told him, how nice it was to be able to sit through a rainstorm and not worry about my roof leaking because he inspected it himself. But the best time to do it, I keep saying to y'all, the best time to have your roof inspected is right now when it's sunny. You don't want to find out that you have a leak when it's raining. And he'll come in to tell you what's the status of your roof, good, bad, or indifferent. And he won't try to upsell you or make you feel like your home's about to fall down on itself and that kind of business. So John Williams over at Old Pro Roofing, a local outfit over at Old Town. So they're Burleson folks. And speaking of Burleson folks, Camco Mortgage Company, Sammy Campbell, Candy Gow. Candy is at 817-925-2661. Sammy's at 817-778-4592. They've been doing it in the Burleson area for well over 20 years. And so they know this area, they know these people. So they're really, really good people to work with. And I can personally endorse them because, like I've told you before, I've used them twice myself. And I think they're just really, really good at their job. Okay, let's see. Where do we begin? We got lots to go on today. I guess that first screenshot, I think she would talk about it. the year 2023 was a difficult year when it came to legal migration into the United States. It says here, 2023 marks the highest level of illegal immigration in U.S. history. And there's no question that in the Biden administration, this has been a significant problem. It's been estimated, and this is just an estimate, it's been estimated that 6.5 million people have tried to enter the country without documentation, without the proper process. And that's the ones we know about. And that's what's going to be the point I'm going to be making, that there really is no workable figure as to how many people here are illegally. And that's not by some right-wing outfit. This is that says this. This is from the government's own estimations. But the ones that we know about, the ones that we've encountered, 2023 was the highest year on record. In December, we had 300,000 alone, which is an all-time record. And it's a very complex issue, okay? It's not one that says, well, we need to ship them all out and build a wall, or we need to open the borders and let them all in, because there's all sorts of other variances and caveats and things, and we're going to try to navigate that as best we can, but it's still causing a great deal of havoc in particularly the cities. That's what most of these illegal immigrants basically are sheltering in the cities, because for various reasons. That's where the resources are, that's where the facilities are, that's where a lot of family is, things like that. And I think we had the first clip is on what's going on in Chicago, which is also being echoed in New York. So, Tay, if you'd run that clip, please.
Tonight, a bitter reality for migrants in Chicago, a city running out of room. Dozens left to sleep inside these warming buses, provided by the mayor to escape the harsh winter temperatures, with shelters pushed to their limits. This man says he's been sleeping in buses for 5 days and is waiting for proper shelter provided by the city.
It's awful. We're basically playing with human lives.
As buses and planes of people continue to arrive. At least 3 Chicago area suburbs voting tonight on executive actions that would prevent migrants from getting dropped off without warning or punish the companies who provide the transportation.
Generally, they're all fairly tough because they have a $750 per person on the bus fine if the bus company hasn't gotten a permit in advance. So that's pretty, with 20 to 50 migrants on a bus, that's pretty hefty.
It's a tactic already employed by New York City Mayor Eric Adams, one that critics say has pushed Texas Governor Greg Abbott to bus migrants to neighboring New Jersey instead to avoid those penalties.
What Governor Abbott has done in his total reckless disregard for using people as pawns, he has shifted, and it just wants to create chaos. If he's shifting, we're going to shift.
Abbott, who has called the Adams order sheer hypocrisy, now facing a legal battle with the federal government. The White House filing an appeal with the Supreme Court to allow Border Patrol agents to cut through barbed wire put in place by the governor's administration. The political fight's heating up as this crisis reaches a new peak, December breaking an all-time record with an estimated 300,000 undocumented migrants crossing the southern border. A perilous journey for many who make it, including more than 30 people who were kidnapped on a bus like this while traveling to the border town of Matamoros, an incident the Mexican president says is under investigation. But some progress tonight for 3,000 migrants that are part of a caravan making its way to the U.S. The Mexican government offering permits to work in the country for the year in an effort to curb the surge. But many say America is still their final destination.
Nosotros tuvimos que salir prácticamente huyendo por el temor de nuestra seguridad.
Like this family we met here in New York, who say they are fleeing death threats back home in Ecuador. Many who do make it safely, ending up at the Roosevelt Hotel, a pit stop in a long and harrowing journey towards a new life. The mayor tonight says he knew restrictions would divert migrants, even if just temporarily. And if lawmakers in states like New Jersey have an issue, he says they can put similar orders into effect. But the reality is that every day, new people are getting onto buses and planes and coming here to places like the Roosevelt Hotel. And there appears to be no end in sight.
Thanks for watching.
Okay. Boys, a lot to unpack in that clip. And we have another one coming up pretty soon that shows the impact this is having on the cities. But there's a lot to unpack on that. And first of all, I have to address the hypocrisy of those cities that are acting like this in certain ways. They blame Abbott for all their problems, yet they advertised themselves prior to this crisis as sanctuary cities. San Francisco, Denver, Seattle, Chicago, New York, all patted themselves on their back on their humanitarianism, yet when they were actually confronted with the results of those policies, they blame Abbott. Now, a lot of people are saying, in effect, that Abbott is kidnapping these people and dragging them to New York. That's not what's happening. Now, you could be upset with Mr. Abbott all you like, but the truth of the matter is every one of those people that are on the buses or on the planes are volunteers. They're going there because they have family there or some other circumstance or opportunity there, and which is more humane. Let them stand out in the elements in Eagle Pass in Mexico, or shipping them to other cities that supposedly have open arms and welcome. And when we've seen just how hypocritical they've been on that. And now what you're having a problem with New York is that they're past the breaking point, and you got Eric Adams, the mayor there. You got Mayor Johnson of Chicago. You have mayors of these other communities saying, we need more and more federal help. We need more federal money. The reason they need more federal money is because they created policies that invited people to come to those cities. Now, I will address the fact that a lot of people think that Abbott is using these people as political pawns. Welcome to politics is all I got to say, because the illegal migrants have been used as political pawns for both parties for decades. Okay, so let's not all throw it on Greg Abbott. Abbott is who he is. I'm kind of, some things I like, some things I don't, whatever. But the point is that this idea that Abbott's using them as political pawns, and I'm shocked that this is happening. Don't kid yourself, Mr. Adams. Don't kid yourself, Mr. Johnson. Y'all been using political pawns from these migrants for decades. They have definitely been a political issue. Now, as far as, the facilities and whatnot, every time Biden is confronted with this issue, he says, I need more money. I need more money. Congress won't do anything about it. Well, here's the political hypocrisy of that as well, is that this has not been an issue just started with the Biden administration or the Trump administration, even though Trump really was the first one to address it. Obama addressed it by deporting more people than Biden ever thought about. His critics called him the deporter in chief, but the point is that both parties have had opportunities to deal with this, and they haven't. And there's going to be a clip coming up pretty soon where I'm going to kind of jump in every now and then and say a few words about it. The second one here talks about the impact this is having on public facilities. So if you'd run that one, if you would, Taylor.
We're back now with a record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities. Now hospitals are sounding the alarm, saying they're also overwhelmed, including some far from the border. Julia Ainsley has our report.
Tonight, the border crisis surging. Officials telling NBC News there were over 200,000 illegal crossings at the southern border last month, and a record 3 million migrants crossed the border in the last year. Now, a new warning 1,000 miles away in New York City, where officials tell us resources are overwhelmed. Across public hospitals in New York City over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
This has been the hardest work that I've ever done, but it's been the most impactful work that I've ever done.
And most of the visits to the taxpayer-funded legal clinic here are by migrants.
Our clinics are full, and there are waiting lists, and people are turning people away or referring them to other places.
Randy Redkin from New York's Legal Assistance Group says so many migrants are asking for legal help on asylum representation and health care access. Now, she says, American citizens who need legal assistance with issues like eviction and insurance have to wait up to 10 weeks.
If you ask me, do we need more resources for legal services? I would say absolutely yes.
Meanwhile, New York's governor now slamming the situation at the border.
It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum.
And New York Mayor Eric Adams saying providing services for migrants will cost city taxpayers $12 billion. But Biden administration officials have blamed Adams' response. It is not an operationally sound effort, one senior DHS official told NBC News. Meanwhile, migrants on the streets are desperate for city help. We met Orlando, who fled violence in Venezuela. He didn't want to appear on camera, telling us he slept on the street before coming to Bellevue for cancer treatment.
How is that for you, given your medical condition, to be sleeping on the street?
You have to make believe it's a good bed, a king size, and you lie down wherever and go to sleep, he says. Orlando tells us he came to New York because he heard about the social services the city would offer to migrants like himself, who were trying to start a new life. The Biden administration recently granted temporary legal status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans, allowing them to work. Today, Governor Hochul announced there are 18,000 jobs now available to eligible migrants.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that one, too. One thing that I noticed about that is the policies of New York City and New York State have invited this problem. I'm going to throw a curve on you, Taylor. You know that screenshot I have from about California? Was
it the one with the graph?
No. It's the first one you showed me. It's the first one I sent you. It shows how California wants to give health care benefits.
This one?
No, not that one. That comes later. There you go. California offering health insurance to undocumented immigrants. Okay, now, what do you say about that? I mean, okay, I'm not going to villainize these people. I'm not going to demonize them. I'm not going to call them, terrible names. If I were sick or my child was sick and I can see California or New York, like this gentleman in the clip said, they got all these social services, they got free health care, I'm going to do what I have to do for my children or my wife or myself, okay? But on the other hand, we're just inviting this problem when you have California offering free health care to undocumented immigrants. You're inviting this problem when you have this level of support for undocumented immigrants. They're going to come where the support is. You can't blame them for that. But the point is that, my goodness, I mean, we're basically just ringing the bell for them to come, and then we complain about them being here. Eric Adams, shut up. If you don't want this kind of problem, don't invite it. California has a massive problem, but I tell Newsom, shut up. You invited this problem by offering public assistance. Now, see, this is where it gets difficult because, you don't want to be inhumane. You don't want to kick them out in the dirt and all this other junk. But the point is that we are overwhelmed and we have basically asked for it. And another thing that just when I saw this, Governor Hochul of New York made me want to puke because she goes, oh, it's our immigration policies and the asylum problems and all this other stuff. Your party is the one that created that problem, Governor Hochul. I mean, this is a Democrat policy about asylum. I haven't even gotten into that part yet. I'll detail that in a minute, but in brief, what's happening is people will go enter these ports of entry and claim asylum because, like the guy in the clip said, he's being threatened back home in El Salvador. And so we have all this immigration coming here, and the idea that the illegal immigrants are sneaking into the country, in the cover of darkness out in the desert. Does it happen? Sure, but not anything like what's happening normally. Is they go to the ports of entry, they present themselves to a border agent, and says we're here for asylum. And the Biden administration has expanded the definition of what counts as asylum to the point that just about anybody can get it, and they know it. And it's even being advertised back in Central American countries. I mean, openly on not just social media, but on their regular media, about how to get in the United States and what to say and what to do and all this other stuff. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But Governor Hochul, I mean, this problem that you're complaining about is something that's been caused primarily through lax immigration policies. Primarily, not exclusively, primarily through the Democrat Party. I will say the Republicans do have a share of this as well, but this is the Biden administration we're talking about. It's his problem. It's what he signed up for, and he's not even addressing it at all. One thing, though, she also said is they're coming from all over the world, and I mentioned that earlier. That it's they're coming from all sorts of places. I'm looking for my data here. Where are they coming from? Well, here's a good example. I read this. Here's one. It's in the New York Times. I'm just going to quote a lot of stuff here to you because it's just easier to do that. That's apparent at the border and shelters throughout America cities. A Venezuelan pharmacist sleeping in line to get shelter in New York City. A Kurdish English teacher crossing the California border. A Russian doctor in Tijuana who spoke to NPR while in line to request asylum. His sons were entering the age of military service. He's quoted as saying, "Russia is so difficult, I can't describe it. It is so difficult for me." And he called it a catastrophe. And so, again, to kind of reiterate my point, we have this image of illegal immigration as all Hispanic people, Central American, Mexico, South American, whatnot. But that's not really the case in all cases at all. We're getting a ton. Here's another part of that article. I'm going to quote again. First, Venezuelans made up 10% of illegal aliens encountered in fiscal year 2023 at 335,000. Now, if you don't know what's going on in Venezuela, it's one of these dictatorial regimes by Ernesto Maduro, and Venezuela is cratering, and it's not just the United States is having to deal with the massive migration of Venezuelans. Colombia is about to collapse because of it, and also neighboring Guyana is struggling. So you have that problem. Now, continue. Of that number, 200,000 were encountered at the southwest border, despite President Biden's promises that his new parole program would reduce the number of illegal border crossings. But in September alone, a stunning 55,000 Venezuelans were encountered at the southwest border, over 25% of the southwest total in 1 month. He goes on to say, in addition, the number of Chinese nationals encountered at our borders is growing. A total of 52,000 Chinese were caught by Border Patrol in fiscal year 2023. Nearly half of those, 24,000, were encountered by the Border Patrol trying to sneak in between ports of entry at the southern border. So we're getting them from all over. Okay, I read several different articles to try to find out where is this coming from. And, again, predominantly, if you lump them all together, it's the Hispanic population, but they're coming from, like I just mentioned, Cuba, and they're coming from Russia and Venezuela. A lot are coming from Haiti. A lot are coming from Turkey and Afghanistan. Okay, and then you have where really the prime area for this is what they call the Golden Triangle: Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and then of course Mexico itself. But they're probably a plurality of these people are Mexican, but they're not the majority. And so we're getting them all over the world. And what happens is they get into South America, which is a lot easier to get into than us, or they come there with the understanding that with those governments that they're going to be moving on. And they make a very dangerous trek from South America through Panama. There's like this dangerous area, and I wish I remember the name now because I was talking about this about a month ago with a guy, but it's like a 60, 70-mile hike through the jungle, which is notoriously dangerous. And they'll make that trek through the Central American part of the peninsula or continent and arrive in Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Laredo, you name it. So they're coming from all over, and that's a pretty big issue. Now I've been mentioning some of the background on this. I'm going to have a longer clip that I'm going to intersperse comments in. So, but it's a really good clip because it talks about the political background and how both parties have tried to solve it and were stymied by the other party. And in both cases, that's why people say it's all the Democrats' fault. Well, the Republicans had their chances too. But I will say this, and I'm trying not to be partisan about it. The Republicans have tried to address this issue, I think, a bit better than what the Democrat Party has done. And with Mr. Reagan in the 80s and Mr. W. Bush in the 2000s, they both attempted to solve this problem that would have satisfied a lot of the concerns and complaints that we have now. And in Reagan's case, it didn't work out like they thought. And in Bush's case, it got shot down by the Democrats. And then when Mr. Obama came in and they tried to solve this problem, they kept insisting on citizenship and amnesty, and the Republican Party wouldn't go for that. And That would be an interesting concept because we don't know how many people will be applying for that. But anyway, let's go ahead and start that clip if you would, please.
Immigration is really a bunch of different issues that are kind of related, all wrapped into one. You have the border itself. You have undocumented immigrants. You have the so-called dreamers. You have issues around asylum seeking and refugees, issues around legal immigration.
Well, for one thing, the immigration thing, I'm a Christian woman. I believe we have to help others, but I don't know what to do about that.
Okay, if you would, that's the point I was going to make. That's the position a lot of us feel about this issue. This lady was at a Trump rally in Iowa, and she says, I don't know how to feel about that. Because they want to do what they've been taught in Scripture about being compassionate to the poor and the stranger and whatnot. But they also know that you can't have an unregulated, unsecure border. And so that's the dilemma most people find themselves in. And I thought that's why I wanted to show that clip, because I thought that lady kind of encapsulated a lot of what people think and feel about this issue. Is you want to be humane, but you don't want this chaos. You don't want just anybody coming in. You want to have a policy that will have some sort of vetting process. And when you talk about the right kind of people in, let's keep the racial connotations out of this, please. I'm talking, when I say the right kind of people, we're talking about the people that want to come here and work and make a life. But we want to do it in an orderly way, and we want to be able to say no to some people instead of saying no, yes to everybody. Any immigration policy that's going to be worth its salt is going to have to tell people, no, you can't come live in the United States. But anyway, go ahead if you would, Taylor.
Immigration is not something that most people experience in their daily lives. But if you ask them if it's important to them, 25% of Democrats and 87% of Republicans say that it's a very important issue to them. So really, whether or not they're feeling it in their daily life has little bearing now on whether or not they think it's an important issue or one that might impact their voting behavior.
It's also something that we've seen pop up in polling in places that are nowhere near the U.S.-Mexico border. Immigration is a major issue among voters in Iowa and New Hampshire, two early voting states that are thousands of miles away from the border with Mexico.
I believe the border is a big issue. We need to get that settled.
You see on TV, you see everybody flooding in through the borders, and it's just, I don't know how our economy can absorb all of that over time. So.
According to the U.S.
Those are also legitimate concerns, okay? And we saw what was happening in New York City at the public hospitals. This is being replicated all across the country. And they also made a good point in this clip so far that it's not just a southern border issue. It's not even a border issue at all in a sense, because all the states are impacted by this. And we don't know how much we're being impacted because we don't know how many people are here. And so that is another crisis. I'm looking for my quotations that I had. Okay, here's a couple right here. One of them, we're talking about a study group for the government says that we have yet to see any restrictive border policy work in terms of actually keeping the numbers down at the border. It just doesn't work that way because people are fleeing extremely dangerous situations. That's true, but we don't know how to solve that without saying no to some people. Plus the fact that we have expanded what is called asylum to the point where it's almost that has no meaning, is the best way I could put it. Okay, here's a couple other quotes from other people. This is from the Migration Policy Institute, a nonpartisan think tank. There's no authoritative source on how many unauthorized immigrants have joined the U.S. population since President Biden took office. Okay, that's not Fox News telling you that. It's a think tank that is known to be bipartisan on this issue. And also, here's a bipartisan policy centers said another quote, it's hard to definitely conclude how single U.S. immigration policies over the past decade have influenced illegal immigration. The numbers alone don't explain demographic changes or the factors that push people to leave their home countries. Continued fluctuation in numbers of arrivals at the border is expected if there is no consistent immigration policy to address the ongoing migration crisis. So even the people that's supposed to know this and study this, they don't know how to handle it, and they don't know how many people to handle. And that's that's just untenable in the United States. You can't maintain the integrity and security of the country. And I think what I'm going to sidetrack here just for a second. I think that's what bothers me the most is that we don't have good policies yet. Any policy that might have any actual benefit in this area and to actually work are derailed by the far left or the far right. You know, if you have a more restrictive policy, you're xenophobic and you just don't like brown people and blah, blah, blah. And if you have a policy that would probably allow more migration and maybe have a pathway that they could be more integrated in the country, you're in favor of open borders, aren't you? You know, you don't have any, you know, in respect for the integrity of this country. So the far left and the far right do the loudest shouting, and any policies that could come up in the middle get shot down. And they've been shot down for decades. So again, this isn't just a modern thing. It's just social media has amped it up 110%. Okay, go ahead, continue.
Customs and Border Protection, about 300,000 migrants are arriving every month on the southern border. That puts us on track in 2023 for nearly 2 million arrivals, and that would be the largest number basically on record since records were being kept.
Comprehensive immigration reform has been the goal of presidents going back decades. It's increasingly hard to see how that comes together.
The American people expect us to meet our responsibility and deliver immigration reform that fixes the problems in the current system.
So in 2013, Congress came really close to passing comprehensive border reform.
Despite the fact that the American people want the border secured, there appears to be a majority of this body that believe legalization must come first.
That sort of solution feels off the table now. The leading policy proposals from the Democrats and Republicans are world apart.
But Republicans need to actually work with us on realistic border policies.
The border needs to be a part of it if it's going to clear the Senate.
A lot of the Republicans will blame President Biden for any perceived weaknesses at the border, any perceived holes in the immigration system. A lot of the Republican candidates are going to blame both parties for a failure to act in a comprehensive way. A lot of them are going to turn their backs on Ronald Reagan, whose famous amnesty program in the 1980s may have laid the groundwork for the current situation that we see right now. I couldn't imagine a Republican Party further away from where Reagan was.
The administration and the allies of immigration reform on both sides of the Capitol and both sides of the aisle work together to accomplish these critically important reforms to control illegal immigration.
The wall itself.
Hang on. People who know me know how much I love Reagan, and that was a policy I remember very well coming into place. What he did was basically granted amnesty to people already here, and about 2.3 million, I believe, was the number that actually applied and got it. And now, what the gentleman's saying is that the Democrats won't accept anything less than amnesty and pathway to citizenship, and the Republicans are not going to allow that to happen. They will not have an amnesty situation, and they will not have a situation where there's a pathway to citizenship that was started or begun in an illegal fashion, is how they look at it. And so they've shot it down numerous times, both sides. And then what you just saw in the last clip with McConnell, basically any aid to Ukraine or Israel is going to be contingent upon border security. Right now, Mr. Biden has asked for $114 billion in aid to Ukraine and Israel. And the Republicans said, if we don't have more money for the border, including building the wall, including a much more restrictive policy on amnesty or asylum, rather, then Ukraine's not going to get their money. That's another topic. But that shows the political nature of this issue and the pawns that are being, or the migrants being used as pawns by both sides. Okay, go ahead.
Is an item of considerable controversy inside the Democratic Party. President Biden campaigned against the wall. He said he would never build any more of it. Since then, he has changed his position.
The border wall, when money was appropriated for the border wall, I tried to get them to redirect that money. They didn't. They wouldn't. And in the meantime, there's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what it was appropriated.
Stop, please. Stop. Mr. Biden, when have you ever let that stop you from doing anything? What Congress has done, you're blaming Congress. Oh, we had to build the wall. Don't give me this. You've done this before where you just said, we're not or we are, and by my hand. And, of course, it took the courts to strike you down. So don't give me this, I can't do anything about it routine. The thing about it is when he talks about, well, we need more money, the problem is both sides, you need more money. The Democrats say we need more money for, these areas of immigration problems, and the Republicans say we needed to increase security and to increase enforcement. And what the Biden administration wants to use that extra money for is to increase the number of asylum judges. Now, here's a couple of facts here. Again, I'm quoting because it just seems like a easy way to do it. ICE, which is ICEE, the Immigration Control, ICE's workload has swelled under Biden. The number of migrants on the deportation docket has risen from 2.6 million in fiscal 2018 to about 6.2 million in the last fiscal year. Okay, the deportation docket means is that if you come here and you apply for asylum, you're going to be put on a schedule to have your hearing. And if you don't show up for that hearing, you would be put on the deportation schedule, which they do not enforce. What happens is about 1 in 4 of these people that claim asylum and get a docket assignment basically will show up for the hearing. But the other 3/4 they disappear into the population. So their names may be on there, but no one enforces it. And for the far right that think the solution to this problem is just go through certain neighborhoods with buses and throwing people on them and taking them back to the border, that ain't going to happen. And it shouldn't happen. That's inhumane, but it's not going to happen. So you might as well quit yelling and hollering about that. That's not going to happen. I think the vast majority of American people have shown that's not how they see this as being solved. It's basically mass forced deportations. Even the majority of Republicans don't like that. And they shouldn't. I mean, that'd be grotesque. Anyway, back to the quote. The agency has approximately 6,000 immigration officers. All told, officials deported 142,580 immigrants to about 180 countries last fiscal year, including more than 44,000 from the interior and more than 98,000 from the border. Okay, 44,000 total out of the 2.6, or the untold millions actually out there. So the idea of the immigration department coming in and grabbing somebody at their job or at their home and forcibly deporting them, it doesn't occur very often. I mean, it's very, very small percentage, 44,000 out of all the millions that probably are out there. And probably what caused those particular individuals to be deported is they broke the law. And in this, yes, we can get into, well, is an illegal immigration itself breaking the law? Yes, but the courts don't enforce it, and the Biden administration doesn't enforce it. Illegal immigration is not in and of itself enough to cause a deportation. We're talking about breaking some other law, like, robbery or burglary or something like that, a more typical crime. And we're not going to have time to go through that today, but we're going to talk about probably the next time I address this very soon about, does illegal immigration really increase crime? Okay, well, let's wait to get to that. Another 60,000 people were expelled under a Trump-era policy that ended in May. That Trump-era policy is called Title 42, which allowed them to deport people on a larger scale because of COVID issues. And when Biden was running in 2020, he said he was going to end Title 42 when the CDC told him he could. Well, when the COVID pandemic at that time, with that particular strain, receded, he did not take that Title 42 out. He let it expire on its own in May of this 2023. And he got a lot of criticism, but he should, because as soon as he let Title 42 expire, it blew up at the border, and it's been blowing up ever since. Now we have, by the way, on a side note, I read in the headline of the Washington Post, we have a new strain of COVID that's very contagious and very quick. And I know a couple of people right now that have it. And the other thing we'll probably address in the next show is it also true what some people say, that the illegal immigration increases disease and other things and whatnot. So we'll address that issue as well. But anyway, we're talking about the fact that that even though Mr. Reagan, I remember the time, got a little bit of criticism, it was a bipartisan deal. It was overwhelmingly passed in Congress. And Mr. Bush tried something similar And I thought it was a pretty good policy. It was basically not so much like they would come here and stay, but they could come here and work easier. If they can get a work card or some ID card, and it'd make it a lot easier for people to come and work in the United States and then go return home. Like a lot of the migrant workers are seasonal workers, construction or agriculture or things of that nature that can come here and work and then send the money home and whatnot, and then return back to wherever they came from, Mexico, if you will. And it would be a lot less hassle than trying to continually having to sneak across the border and hide out. They'd have a worker's card. Why did it not pass? The Democrats in Congress did not like it because of the unions opposed it. Okay, 2013, Mr. Obama puts up something similar, but as a prerequisite, it was going to have to include a pathway to ultimate citizenship. And the Republicans said, no, we're not going to reward people by letting them become citizens who do not apply, instead of the way that we've done it for decades. They said it's wrong to those people that have applied and done the right thing, and it's wrong that that people are going to be rewarded for illegal activity. So it didn't pass in 2013, and now the Republicans said if we don't address this border with more security, then it's off the table. Also, talking about it being overwhelmed, here's another quote. The immigration court system, staffed by fewer than 800 immigration judges, is overseeing 3 million pending cases. So you have 800 judges trying to see 3 million pending cases. In other words, it takes years. It takes years for your court case to be heard. If you come in and claim asylum, I don't know exactly. I've seen different estimates from 5 to 7 years, something like that, at best. Part of what the Democrats want to do is increase the number of immigration judges. And what would happen at these hearings? If the judge says your claim to asylum is invalid, you're supposed to be deported. And for those people who are unsure about their claims, they just don't show up, like I've said before. And 75% of the people on the docket don't show up. They'll have a court time assessed and whatever else. But in most cases, we just rely on them to come in for the case because we don't have any way of contacting them. They're not leaving behind an address or phone number that they can be contacted with. They're coming here and they're not going to make themselves known. And so, like I keep reiterating, we don't know how many there are, but even those that follow the process that we've given them, they'll come in and claim asylum, and they'll have been in the country several years before their case is even heard. Okay, go ahead.
Security moving toward what they're not quite calling a wall, but essentially is additional physical barriers at portions of the U.S.-Mexico border as they have dealt with an influx of people trying to come to the country under the most desperate situations possible.
According to Gallup data in 2023, 47% of Americans say that increased immigration, just writ large, makes crime worse, and 55% say it makes drug trafficking or just the drug problem worse. And I think that makes the conversation about immigration more negative. Again, harms progress, but just creates a division in American politics that I think we all feel and we can see.
I really did like that clip because I think it was very well balanced. It was by ABC News, and I thought it presented the background pretty well. I'm not going to be able to get to all the issues. So I don't want to jump in the middle of one and then have to stop. But so I'm going to save for part two. Is it true what Mr. Trump says, that it increases crime, increases disease, it increases drugs, and that it has obviously a very, very poor opinion about the quality of human being that's coming across? So we'll be looking at some of the statements by both Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden about this issue. And we'll talk about, is it true? Does it increase crime? Does it increase impact on our economy, a negative impact on our economy? What is the true impact of illegal immigration on our economy? And it's a mixed bag, okay? Is it true that they're bringing in diseases? And also the political implications of what's going on. So we'll be doing this show next week. We may do a special session. I don't know. We're going to find a time to do it because I really do think of the two issues that's going to drive this election, besides the personalities of Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, is going to be immigration and inflation. And so I think that's going to be something that is really, really going to be a difficult issue. And I think it's an issue that I think as American voters we need to be educated upon now. And so we need to understand, first of all, that the system doesn't work, and second of all, it's being exploited, and the third is, the truth lies in between the extremes. Deportation and border walls versus open borders, neither works, and neither is feasible. Now, my personal opinion is we need an immigration system that's a whole lot more regulated and a whole lot more secure. I don't believe in open borders even a little bit, but I also believe that immigration over the course of our history has been a net positive for this country in so many ways. Okay? Because I look at, immigration over the course of our history. The United States was built by immigration, but it wasn't built by illegal immigration. It wasn't built by massive numbers of people crashing the system. Now, you look at some of the things that go on like at late 19th, early 20th centuries, and all of that, they had policies in place that would send people home. And they were done right at the border, right at Ellis Island or other ports of entry. If you came in from a European country and you had tuberculosis, you were sent right back home. So it wasn't, historically, you look at this issue, it wasn't like we had open borders and then we shut them down in the 1920s and then reopened up in the 1960s. There's two immigration laws, 1924 and 1965, that kind of bookend each other. 24 is very restrictive, 65 is very much less so, and then we still, that's the operating law right now is one of Johnson's laws in 1965. But anyway, the point I'm making again, I want to be clear, because I hate it when people say, oh, you must believe then. No, don't put words in my mouth. We need a system that allows for orderly immigration. We need a system that allows us to say no. And we need a system that doesn't just let people go out into the American population and then disappear. But, it's a difficult political needle to thread. So anyway, thank you, Taylor, for your expert work on the...
Always.
Doesn't he do good work, guys? I'm telling you. If y'all need some work done...
Yeah, this applause for me.
Yeah, well, awesome. No, I'm saying if you want to do a podcast or video clips or commercial adverts, this is your man. I mean, it is good work.
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to have I got to kind of schedule in flux a little bit next week. I do have one of my B&I friends, Tanner Scarver, is going to be on Monday from AirServe, and we're going to talk about heating and air conditioning. And I said, oh, boy, that doesn't sound fun. No, guys, you need to understand what's going on, because it's an expensive habit or hobby to be putting in a new air conditioner every 3 years. You need to do what you can to keep that one running. Also, on Thursday, we're going to have Melissa Miller on. And then Tuesday is a little bit open, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So I may be doing part 2, or maybe I do have something in mind, but again, illness is playing a factor with one of the guests, so we're just going to have to see what happens. I guess it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening. Please share this with friends. I think this is a very, very important issue. I hope I clarified at least at this point. Again, we will have part 2. You'll see it sometime in the next week or so, and we'll discuss some of the things that I couldn't get to today. So thanks very much.